This is Ryan Whooper, and you're listening to the Blazers Balcony with Brooke Olzendam and Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to the Blazers Balcony, episode 116 of the Blazers Balcony. I'm your host, Casey Holdahl, or your co-host, Casey Holdahl, I should say. I'm joined by my friend and co-host and co-worker, Brooke Olzendam. Brooke Olzendam, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a little minute since we've done this. I'm excited to do it. Where I think we'll talk about it at some point, but last night I got to go to my first remix game, which we've been talking about going to for so long, but it worked out perfectly, and it was a blast. Got to see Baji on one side, Greg Brown the third on the other. I was not expecting that. That was awesome. I was like, no way, Greg Brown. Anyways, a bunch of players were there, so I just wanted to share that I finally got to one, and I highly recommend. Super fun. Wore my Hanford Nation shirt and got a chance to see a ton of people. It was fun. So I highly recommend.
Yeah, no, I was able to get to a remix game recently as well, my first one of the year too, which, I understand why they do it, but it's kind of a bummer that they schedule those games on the same days as our games, or Trailblazer games, I should say, where it's all one organization. But yeah, and some of the times on it too is like, guys, like, are you trying to make it more difficult to get to some of these games? Like, I want to go to more, and it's in the neighborhood, so I'd love to go to more. But I was able to go to one last week. I didn't go to the one on Sunday. I probably should have. I probably could have, Brooke. And if I'd known you were going, I probably would have sweetened the deal as well. But Brooke passing by my house to go to the game and maybe waving as she's passing by here in North Portland. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to make it, Brooke. And yeah, they've got a few more they've got 4 more home games this year. So check the schedule if you haven't already. Definitely get up there on the peninsula. It's a great time. UP, a lot of basketball at UP this weekend too. High school basketball championships there as well. Congratulations to Central Catholic. I was really rooting for the Roosevelt Rough Riders, North Portland to get that victory. But second place ain't bad either. Congrats to everyone, all the high schoolers out there who competed this weekend, and congrats to the remix as well. Did they win yesterday, Brooke?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, congrats on getting better than remix.
They were up. It was a great game. They were up big, and then Texas Legends came back, and then I think they ended up losing by 7, maybe, probably 5 or 7. But there's a dunk by his name is escaping me right now. I just played.
Yeah, he was. We had him for a minute. Yeah.
Tajay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tajay. Yeah, that was ridiculous. So yeah, that was wild. So it was a good game. They just ended up coming up short.
Well, and speaking of good games, your Portland Trailblazers getting a victory at home, their first victory at home since July, since July, boy, if they had gotten their first victory since July at home, 1, why are we playing basketball in July? And 2, that would be a really long time. Since January 31st, Blazers getting their first home victory on Saturday night versus the Toronto Raptors, 128-118 in overtime. Had quite a few players come back for that game as well. Deandre Ayton returning to the lineup, fairly important. Scoot Henderson also returning to the lineup. Dalano Banton having a great game against his former team as well. So really just nice to get a win in that one, Brooke, against a team that's, kind of in the same place the Blazers are at right now. Quite a few guys out of the lineup and kind of playing out the string a little bit here, but trying to get better, giving young guys minutes. And I thought it was a real fun night at Moda Center too. I thought, and we talked about this a little bit. They've been playing better basketball lately. Obviously they got the 2 wins in Memphis, which Brooke was in Memphis for those games, holding it down. So nice work there, Brooke. And then given a good effort versus the Timberwolves, even though they weren't able to win that game either. And then same thing with Oklahoma City, pushing OKC to maybe not the limit, but at least making them play hard all the way through the fourth quarter before falling by 8 in that one. And then, versus the Rockets, a little bit of a step back, I would say. They're 123-107 on Friday, but then bouncing back the next night versus the Raptors. Again, getting back DeAndre Ayton, getting back Scoot Henderson. At this point, when it's just Ant basically with a bunch of the young guys, which is what it's been kind of back and forth, and Matisse in and out of lineup too. That's going to make it hard to win any game on a night-to-night basis. But, when they have guys healthy and available, they're able to at least give every team a run for their money. And as we saw on Saturday night versus the Raptors, actually able to go out and get it. I believe that, the Blazers, I think, went up by like 18 or 15 in that game in the first half, had a great first quarter. And as is the case in the NBA, as the game goes on, the other team is going to make a run. And as the Raptors did, Blazers able to not get beat out in regulation. and then blow the doors off in overtime, actually. So a fun night, fun opportunity to get a win, Brooke. And again, after going, over a month since having a win at Moda Center, and even though the fans have been coming and have been really supportive too, like I think, and that's not blowing smoke. Like
No,
I've really
actually,
been impressed by the support from the fans this season, particularly here in the last couple weeks. So to get that victory finally at home, it just felt nice, and it was a good feeling in the building. It was a fun game. You saw a lot of young guys play well. Again, Dalano having a nice night, a guy that the team acquired at the deadline. So just a nice little fun opportunity to get a win and see a good game at Moda Center, Brooke.
that way it was great. It had it all. It was drama, but then obviously the outcome was positive, what you wanted. But when Deandre Ayton missed that 0.7, I mean, I asked him about it, after it. I said, have you ever been so sure a shot is going in that didn't? Because the whole arena thought it went in. It was just, in and out. So that was dramatic. And then it was fitting that then DA got the first bucket in overtime. And then, yeah, you're right. They just pulled it, not only pulled away, but just they dominated that overtime. It was like, oh, okay, phew, because you never know when, get to overtime. Oh, great. This really could go either way, depending on how the game went. Just so many factors. So I was like, please just, yeah. Anyways, it was good. It was a much needed win, and I'm very pleased that we got it. And you're right, so many different performances. Dalano Banton's totally been impressing me. Anthony's been, kind of in that shooting rhythm. I love that he's feeling more like himself. But yeah, you're right. And the fans are. I completely agree with you. They are through and through, and they've been really fun to talk to, because it's just like, again, not about wins and losses, it's about kind of even more so camaraderie at these games, because you're all going through it together and through the same thing. But it was a great win. I was so pleased.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through a few things there you mentioned, Brooke. Deandre Ayton, 30 points, 19 rebounds in that game in 40 minutes in the victory. You're right. He had an opportunity to get kind of a little tip in from a Chris Murray inbound, if I'm not mistaken. A very nice pass from Chris Murray,
Nice
too,
pass.
by the way, to really give Deandre a shot at that, even though Kelly Olynyk was basically holding his jersey down, which I had mentioned that. Someone was like, no, Deandre is pushing off. I was like, from my view of my seat, I can see exactly where they're at, and you could see the white of the undershirt that Deandre was wearing while Olynyk was pulling down his jersey. So, yeah, he was being pulled down there. But you're right, he almost got that to go, went around, I think, twice, and then rimmed out. But then, as you mentioned, Brooke getting a lob dunk to start the overtime, and then really from there, I think Blazers scored the first 7 points of overtime. And by like a minute in, it was basically over at that point. So DeAndre coming back after an extended absence with that wrist or hand sprain that he had, I believe, in the loss to the Miami Heat. And he's been phenomenal. Like obviously when I think he missed 4 or 5 games with that injury. But leading up to that, he's been playing really well, basically a double machine right now, and just really in his rhythm right now. Went 14 of 25 from the field in that victory versus the Raptors. And I imagine if he's able to stay healthy here throughout the rest of the season, like we're going to see DeAndre put up some numbers, I think. And I think he saw in that Raptor game too that when things kind of started to slow down a bit in the second half for the Blazers, they were shooting the lights out in the first half. In the second half, some of those things are gonna even out a little bit. But he's just a guy right now where I feel like it's like, just give him the ball. Like you give the ball to DeAndre in the post or even, kind of free throw line extended right now. And like he's money right now. So like I would really like to see them try to utilize him a little bit more, particularly when it seems like the game is kind of grinded up a little bit. One of my complaints I would have about that Raptor win is like at the end of the game, it seems like they were just getting too guard heavy, like going too much, kind of trying to get ISOs, when it's like, look, man, none of these guys can cover DeAndre. Like they don't have anyone out there that can stop him. So let's just try to give him the ball a little bit. So I definitely think the play of DeAndre before the injury and now even in that one game after the injury really makes you feel good about kind of what's getting accomplished and what we might see from him going forward.
Yeah, it was funny. He said he's like, down the stretch, my legs felt great. He said it was his wrist was bothering him a little bit, not too much, but he's like, but my legs felt like I was refreshed. So that's kind of the word we were using. It looked like he was just ready to go. Like this game, he had been waiting to put up numbers like this opportunity. Like it was just so much fun to watch. And I think he's going to get every rebound, and he does that. He almost does. And it just, yeah, I'm just so pleased for him. He's he seemed pretty excited about it after the game, and he was excited before the game to get back. So if that can be a consistent night in, night out thing. I mean, I don't see why I can't. I don't see why. But he's definitely a weapon, and we're seeing him play the best basketball this season. It's been fun.
He's not a guy who shoots a lot of free throws, unfortunately, and you would like that he would get more, but he hasn't missed a free throw, Brooke, since January 24th.
No way.
Yeah, he is.
No.
He did not miss a free throw in February, and again, he doesn't take as many as you might like, but when he's getting them, he's making them. So that's kind of fun. But he averaged 17 points, 11 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal in 30 minutes, basically, in the month of February, and coming out strong here in the month of March after missing, like I said, for like 4 or 5 games with that injury. So really great stuff from DA in that game, and hopefully some great stuff from him going forward. Another guy that returned to the lineup, Scoot Henderson. Scoot had been out for a while with that adductor injury, came back in the victory versus the Raptors. Is no longer, I believe, on the injury report either. If he is, I think he's listed as probable. So hopefully that's been squared away. But I thought Scoot, looked very good out there as well. A guy who, I think when you're looking for things you really want to pay attention to in this last, 5 weeks of the Blazers season, I think seeing what Scoot's able to do out there is one of the things that I think fans are probably the most interested in. Scoot going 5 of 12 from the field in that victory versus the Raptors, 13 points, 5 assists, and 1 steal in 26 minutes. Probably a few more minutes than they wanted to play Scoot. I think they would have liked to have played him more if he hadn't been on a minutes restriction, particularly when we have an overtime game. But they were able to give him enough minutes while also not giving him too many minutes, and still able to get the victory. So nice to get Scoot back out there, and really just more than anything, nice to just have the opportunity to get all those players out there at the same time. And I think it's, again, when you're looking for things to pay attention to or to be interested in, reasons to tune in these last couple weeks of the season, I think getting Scoot back out there is one of the main things you want to see. And so to have him out there and to look fairly healthy in his first game back, hopefully he's able to, put that issue behind him. Good things there, Brooke. And again, something to pay attention to. He didn't start in that game. I imagine he probably will get back into the starting lineup at some point in time. Though the other thing is, man, Dalano's been playing really well. So, but also, he's Scoot. He's the guy who took third in the draft. He's probably going to be the guy they're going to give those minutes to.
I will say, Case, the Friday Saturday game, which makes sense because it's obviously Friday and Saturday, it's the weekend, but everyone was so excited, like fans, and then when we were just excited to be in the building, and just everyone was, and they didn't, many of them didn't even know about Scoot and DA yet. So it's always fun to be, when we've talked about this before, to be able to tell kids and fans, like, yeah, Scoot's going, because that happened with a couple young men that came up there, like, is Scoot gonna play? And I said, and yes, like they're so excited, and he needs to play as much as he possibly can. So he's a fun story, but that whole night just seemed like it was going to be a special night. We just had something extra with the return of Scoot and DA, and then of course the game was the game. So yeah, it's fun storylines to follow. And you got the other, like Toumani coming back, he looked great. Matisse, that one sequence last night, Matisse was kind of he's been a go-to guy on both ends, as he always has been, but there's been something extra, a little elevation in Matisse's game the last couple of games. But yeah, there's so much to root for, so many people to root for, and so many things to watch for.
Yeah, I feel like both Matisse and Toumani, two guys you both mentioned there, both have really kind of stepped up at least their scoring as of late. I feel like Toumani, since getting back in the starting lineup, has really been more, I feel like he's looking for his shot more. He took 10 shots in the victory versus the Raptors for 15 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. And it seems like he's just really being more aggressive on the offensive end. I think, initially when he was playing with those starters, really trying to be more of a complimentary player, which makes perfect sense. A guy probably more just taking kind of corner threes and maybe putting the ball on the floor, if the shot clock is down. But it seems like more and more he's just been more aggressive, kind of looking for his own shot and trying to be more dynamic on the offensive end. And, same with Matisse. Like he's really been a guy recently too, where it feels like he's putting the ball on the floor more. He's trying to get to the rim a lot more often. And it's doing good things for the team, particularly when kind of the game starts to tighten up a little bit, you need guys on your team that are going to be able to create a little bit and who aren't necessarily just going to be reliant on Ant or Scoot or Malcolm when he's in the game to kind of get them going or get them looks. And so to have those guys now kind of extend themselves out a little bit on the offensive end, I think makes a whole lot of sense. And I think it's one of the reasons why the team has been more competitive lately, is because you have guys in Toumani and Matisse who are giving you a bit more on the offensive end on a 99 basis. And that's been for the last couple of weeks now, I would say. I would hope that's going to keep up, but that's also been something to pay attention to too, particularly Toumani, because I think we all kind of know what Matisse can do, and it's just more kind of what role he's put into on a night-to-night basis. I also feel like Matisse has done a really nice job of, he's starting some nights, he's coming off the bench some nights, like he's just really, and his effort and his intensity is like the same on a night-to-night basis. It's like, some guys, if they're starting or come off the bench, like you're going to get something different from them, and there's probably some truth to that in terms of Matisse, but I would say much less than other guys. Like it seems like when Matisse is out there, you're kind of just getting what Matisse has to offer, regardless of whether or not he's starting. And then in Toumani, a guy who, as a younger player, I think it's a bit easier for him to start, or at least a bit easier to understand kind of what his role is and what he's supposed to do when he's out there with the starting unit. And recently, again, like it really seems like he's found his groove offensively and is trying to maybe expand that part of his game out a little bit, which again is a wise decision. It's not like he's going to get pigeonholed as a 3-and-D guy in his rookie season, but when the team is, you have a lot of opportunity to experiment, I guess, if you're a Portland Trailblazer right now, is what I'm trying to say. And if you want to expand your game, if you want to show you can do more things, now is the time to do it. And I feel like Toumani is one of those guys that's taking advantage of that.
And we've talked about already, but Dalano Banton, when we talk about his 3-point shooting, didn't know that was in his bag, if you will. But that's been fun to watch too, where he comes in. We don't know a ton. I don't know a ton about his game. I know he looks like, the athleticism with him, like what is the word that Michael always does? Slithery. And I'm like, yeah, that is a good word, slithery. But then to shoot the 3 like that, that's just very impressive. So that can be on a more consistent basis. So you mentioned experimenting. I think that was probably DB experimenting a little bit, because he's not usually someone who's gotten the green light to shoot 3s, or at least very much supported to shoot 3s, and I don't think he's had them in the past. So that was that's part where he's kind of experimenting. But yeah, I think that's for everyone. Even after the game, coach said, "Thank goodness we won that," because I might look back a couple of times to like, "Wow, why did I experiment there? Why did I do that there?" If he doesn't end up in the win. So I think everyone's doing a little bit of that, coaching staff and the players too.
Yeah, which I understand completely what Chauncey was saying there, but also it's like, Chauncey, you can experiment, man. Like yes, it'd be nice to win this game. If we don't, and you felt like you got something out of it through those experimentations, that's probably the best way to go anyways. But yeah, it is nice to get those wins, because we've talked about it. It's just way easier to teach after a win. When you haven't won a home game in over a month, particularly when you had an extended homestand, or when you had one in February and you're in the midst of one now, that starts to feel a little bit weird for players as well. So to be able to get that win versus the Raptors, you're absolutely right, Brooke. And also too, when you look at Portland's schedule, it's getting pretty tough. It's been tough all year long, but when you look at some of the teams that are going to be going up against, the number of road games they're going to be playing, it's going to be hard on a night-to-night basis. So getting the wins right now when you can makes a whole lot of sense. And you mentioned Dalano Banton, and you're exactly right, Brooke. A guy who, not known for his 3-point shooting, which is why I think he's kind of still been kind of finding a place to try to be. First 2 seasons with the Raptors, shot 26% from 3, then 29% from 3 in his second season. With the Celtics, I don't even know if there's really anything you can take from his stats with the Celtics. He hardly played, only appeared in 24 games, 7 minutes a game, shooting 13% from 3 with the Celtics. Now up to 37% in 12 games for the Trailblazers from 3. And that's the part of Delano's game where, if he's able to develop a consistent 3-point shot, if he can be like a 35% 3-point shooter, and even that seems high. Like if he could be like a 33 or even a 32% 3-point shooter, with his size and his ability to get to the basket, if he's able to improve his 3-point shooting and improve his defense, like Delano's a guy who could be in the league for a long time and would be a guy that other teams would be really interested in getting, as opposed to, the way the Portland got him was, from Boston, and the Celtics sent cash with Dalano Banton. So basically the Celtics paid the Blazers to take Dalano Banton. Now they're getting some cost savings too, I imagine, from luxury tax, but still, long and the short of it is they sent him to Portland for nothing. And as of right now, he looks like a guy who is a useful player for this team. And, he's been starting lately. I don't know if starting is necessarily going to be kind of what Delano's future is with the Trailblazers, at least, or I mean, it could be. He's still a young enough player to where he can still write that story. But even as a guy coming off your bench, as a secondary ball handler, again, as a guy who with some size can play some different positions, those guys are incredibly valuable in the NBA. But the one kind of caveat there is that you have to be able to shoot the three. Like if you're going to be a big ball handler, you got to shoot the three, which is why, guys like ET, Evan Turner, guy we love, like the fact that Evan just wasn't able to ever really develop like a consistent 3-point shot, that was the difference I feel like for Evan between, the career he had, which was a very good career, and the career he might have been able to have if he could shoot the three, which I think would have been in excess what it was. But, if Delano is able to develop that, that's going to go a long way towards giving him a long NBA career. And at least in his first 12 games with the Trailblazers, 12 games is a decent sample size too. And, he's maybe being utilized a little bit differently than he might be otherwise because of injuries. And I think, when Scoot comes back, we'll get another sense of how Chauncey's going to use Delano, assuming that Scoot does go into that starting lineup. But, 12 games, he's taken, about 2.5, he's taken about 3.5 threes a game. And he's shooting 37% on those through 12 games for the Trailblazers. Like that's great news for the Blazers, and it's really great news for Delano. And if that's something he's able to keep up here throughout the rest of the season, that player option he has, I think probably becomes, I think it's a team option. In fact, it is a team option that probably becomes a bit more valuable. And maybe, an opportunity to kind of keep him around for a little bit longer, if nothing else, and see, how he works with the young team that they're going to have going to next season as well.
And I said this to Coach a couple games ago, or after Friday nights, before Saturdays. I said, have you been? I know you've been impressed with a lot of aspects of Delano's game, but just like on an overall level, like just the confidence. That's not that the position he came in with. It was it's just coming seamlessly, but also like looks as though not only does he think knows he belongs there, he wants to show off that not show off, but show that he belongs there. It's just I don't know if I would have that confidence. I'd be kind of like, I got to figure out, it takes a while to get to know like your team, the new offense, the new coaching staff, and he's just coming right away. And the confidence, you can see it on the floor, you can see it off the floor. He exudes it, and I applaud him for that, because you got to keep your confidence up, and people always, that's kind of the key to it. And look at what he has completely done that, and he's been a star. I've been so impressed with everything on the floor and off the floor conversations. It's just, I applaud him for just coming in and taking advantage of the situation right off the bat.
Yeah, so far, as I mentioned, through 12 games, Dalano Banton averaging 14 points on 43% shooting from the field, 37% shooting from three, 66% shooting from the free throw line. Got to improve that, Dalano. To go with 4.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists in 23 minutes per game. So you're exactly right, Brooke. Definitely giving the Blazers something they need right now. And as we've talked about over and over and over again in this league, from guys like any number of young players who kind of don't get the opportunities that they would like to get early on in their career, is sometimes it's just about getting that chance and getting your foot in the door and getting the opportunity to play minutes and play through mistakes. And I feel like Delano had mentioned that, in the post game after the Raptor game, which was that, or actually maybe it was the game prior to that versus the Rockets where he put up his career high, that a lot of times it's like, he understands that he's getting to play a role right now that he has not gotten to play in the NBA, and he knows that like his performance is a reflection of that. And a lot of times for some guys, until they get a chance to kind of get out there, play some extended minutes and play through some mistakes, which is what he talked about. He's like, when you're a young player and you're kind of on the fringe of the rotation, if you make one mistake, you're going out of the game, and you might not get back in the game. It's hard to keep your confidence, and it's hard to just prove that you're supposed to be out there if you're not having the opportunity to play through some of those mistakes. And with the Blazers right now, he does have that opportunity because, they've got a lot of injuries, and, they're really playing to kind of find out about some of these guys, not so much about trying to get every single victory. So, a very good situation for Delano, and it was also one of the reasons why I asked him, when he got to Portland on a recent edition of the other podcast that we don't talk about, is that, he came from the Celtics. The team that the Blazers are playing Monday night. If you happen to be listening to this on Monday as well, you probably maybe know the outcome of that game by now. And, obviously the Celtics are a team that, they're competing for a championship this year. It's very possible that the Celtics could win the championship this year. The Blazers are not there. But if you're Dalano Banton, you're not really getting to play with the Celtics. Would it be nice to be on a championship team? Absolutely. But for your development, like, that's not really doing a whole lot for you, and particularly for young guys who, you know, in a contract year and, you know, with a team option trying to decide whether or not a team's going to pick him up. Yeah, winning a championship would be awesome, but if I'm just affixed to the bench, it's not doing a whole lot for my career. And granted, I'm a team guy, so I'm going to be a team player, but is this really better for me at my point in my career to be on the Celtics than it would be to be on a team like the Blazers, where, yes, am I going to win a championship this year? No, they're not even going to make the postseason this year. But I'm getting an opportunity to play. I'm being able to develop my skills. I'm having the opportunity to show what I can do in the NBA, which I would not be able to do in Boston right now. So, you know, that's always one of those things for young players. I think that it's a bit conflicting, I think, because it's like, on one hand, yeah, you want to be on a successful team. Like, everyone wants to win, and like, the point of being on a team is to have team success. And so you want those things. But also, like, it is a business, and every roster is made up of a bunch of individuals, and each one of those guys has their own desires and wants and needs and hopes. And, you know, I'm guessing that most guys don't want to just sit on the bench while their teammates go out and play extended minutes and perhaps win a championship. And so, you know, I think for young guys, a lot of times it can just be there's a push and pull there between, like, well, I want to have success on the team, but I also want to have an opportunity to show what I can do, because if I don't get that chance to show what I can do, I don't get to extend my career. And if I don't get to extend my career, then I'll never be on a championship team because I'm out of the NBA. So, you know, it's with Dalano, it really is a encapsulation of the situation that a lot of young players who are trying to make their way find themselves in. And, you know, he's gotten some of that with, you know, getting drafted by his hometown team and playing there for 2 years and being in the G League, and then going to Boston, again, a team that's had a lot of success this season, but hardly got to play, to being in Portland now, where, you know, he's getting an opportunity to show what he can do far more than any other place that he played, either with the Raptors or the Trailblazers. So a good opportunity for him, a good opportunity for the Trailblazers, and it really kind of brings into focus why the team went and made that move at the deadline, which is like, hey, Dalano Banton, let's see if this guy's got anything. The Celtics are willing to move him for literally nothing. Let's give that a try. So so far, I would say that's been a pretty good move for the Trailblazers, Brooke.
I get no complaints here. You can bring in a guy that's automatic offense and is having fun with this group. There's a shot of him last night after that and one. It was just, he ran over to the bench and all smiles. Yeah, it's an opportunity that he's taking advantage of. Like you said, you can be on a team that's seen success, but if you're trying to have personal development and personal growth to show what you can do, I think you would choose more of the opportunity to play and get better, and show, not just get better, but show what you have been working on, or what you know you're capable of, what's possible for you. And that's what he's doing right now. So kudos to him. And I mean, people are taking notice, that's for sure. He came right in, and people are like, who's this band? And everyone had, like, the first time they say it, at least for me, the last couple of days, it's not been said correctly, but it's one of those names where, you know, it's easy to throw a different letter in, you know, or swap some letters. It's funny. People, the pronunciations and guesses for last name of Dalano Banton have been entertaining this week. But happy.
Really, how do people pronounce it if it's not Banton?
Blanton. I've got a Blanton a ton. My dad made up one last night that I'd never heard, but I know it doesn't sound, it's not like one that you look at and be like, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Not that, but for some reason, a lot of people are just putting different vowels in different positions for it. You know, we'll all figure it out.
Because I've heard that too, but yeah, it's always been a very straightforward name to me too. But it's always been like an interesting name to me too. I mentioned that on my rare TV appearance the other day. I was like, Dalano Banton's like a good name, you know, like it's a solid name.
I saw that you were on that. How did that go? I mean, you told me, but then I got a chance to see it out of the corner of my eye.
I didn't watch it after the fact, but I think it went okay. Like, they didn't get the hook out or anything, so like, that was good. I don't think I got bleeped. There's always like a moment after where I'm like, did I curse? Like, I don't think I did, but like, I kind of do a lot, so I'm always concerned after the fact that, like, I don't think I said anything I shouldn't have, but I guess someone will let me know if I did.
I was gonna say, you'd hear, so someone would let you know, that's for sure.
Well, there'll be plenty of opportunities for these young guys to, like Dalano and a lot of the other guys, to play here in this last 5 weeks of the season. Trailblazers entering after a real kind of light and breezy February, beginning of March. Not a ton of games, or at least games, but like pretty light days off in between. Blazers really starting a busy section of their schedule right now. 8 games in the next 13 days, 19 games left in the season over the course of 35 days for the 2023-24 Trailblazers. A lot of road games in there as well. So a lot of opportunity here to kind of play if you're a young player. I would imagine, they're probably going to start giving more minutes to some of those young guys, which they have already, like Chris becoming a regular part of the starting lineup. I'm curious, if that's going to continue with Scoot coming back into the lineup. Are they going to give that? I think at this point in time, Chris is kind of playing the 3, so they might go that direction, particularly while Jabari is injured. So maybe they come back with Scoot and Chris, which makes some sense too. Obviously, you get all the young guys out there at once, or at least a lot of these young guys you drafted who didn't get to play as much as maybe you would have liked to begin the season, have been playing a lot more lately. So a lot of opportunities for young guys to come in and play. Obviously, as I mentioned, they're playing the Celtics Monday night. Curious to see who the Celtics tried out there tonight. They had basically their entire roster was healthy in their victory versus the Suns a few nights ago, and then for the Blazers, half their team is now listed as questionable. One assumes it's because they probably feel like they can get that win regardless. I would say not to be entirely certain about that. Blazers, again, playing better basketball right now. You have to actually, you got to play them tough right now if you want to beat Portland, in my personal opinion. Then they host the Hawks, and then our good friend Josh Hart and the New York Knicks before heading out to see our good friend CJ in New Orleans. And I don't think we have anyone in Chicago. It's not anyone that I can know.
No good friends there.
No, there. And then they come back for 3 games at home before heading out for that long 15-day, 7-game road trip. So a lot of the games becoming thick and fast here, Brooke. After, again, I felt like it was a pretty light. Obviously, we didn't travel a whole lot in February. I didn't travel at all in February. And even those of you who did, only a couple games there. But now a chance to really kind of get basically every other day they're playing a game. And, that's a lot of times when you're young guys, that gives them a chance to play and play regularly. And, probably not a whole lot of practice time in between those games, but also like at this point in time in the season, like it'd be nice to practice, but also like if you kind of don't know what's going on at this point, like you're probably not going to figure it out in the next 5 weeks anyways. So a chance for a lot of young guys to play a lot of minutes. And again, that's something where, as I'm looking for things to kind of pay attention to in these last 5 weeks, that's kind of where my interest goes to first is these young guys. And also, like, is Shaedon going to be able to get back out there? They keep saying that he wants to come back and that they want to have him back if he's healthy. So I'm curious about that too. And there's going to be a lot of games for him to play if he wants to, because again, they have a whole lot of games in the next 5 weeks before wrapping this thing up.
Yeah, Shaedon, by the way, also at the Rip City Remix game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I forgot about him. So yeah, from everyone I've talked to that has talked to him and him personally for the time of Shaedon coming back, all arrows point to they want to get him with a couple games under his belt, some reps towards the end of the season, and why not? I think it's a smart thing to do. Might as well. And Shaedon, I know, is itching to play. We're not saying he for sure is going to, but if possible, if he's cleared, he is a strong yes. He would like to come back, and I think it's just a good thing for Shaedon just to get some reps towards the end of the season too. But yes, a perfect opportunity for young guys. That's what we're kind of doing, the rookie showcase this week for Blazers broadcasting. We've been talking about a different guy each day, and then I talk to him. So everyone has a different story, and they're fun to root for in different ways and reasons why. So I've been telling people that too, that it maybe have been a little frustrated. So these guys are really fun to watch, and their stories are pretty impressive, all different, but there's a lot of guys that's easy to root for. So take this time to keep an eye out on Toumani's deflections, on Matisse deflections, just fun storylines that you enjoy. And I think that, and then the young guys just taking advantage of it.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say too, other than the young guys, the thing that I'm kind of interested in paying attention to is the friendship between Jeremy and Matisse.
Very sweet.
I want to do something about that here sometime in the not too distant future. They're guys kind of similar points in their careers. particularly, being veteran guys who are playing with a lot of young guys, but both kind of view the world kind of a little differently, I think, than maybe your average NBA player does. Both have interests. I think, a lot of guys have interests, but they have kind of disparate interests that I think is kind of interesting. And they always like make a point of like leaving the locker room together, and they come out together during games. So I want to kind of get to the bottom of that a little bit, but it's been fun to see those two guys kind of hang out together and do things together and kind of talk about stuff in the locker room. And you can always tell that like they're talking about things in front of other people that like we don't know exactly what they're talking about, which is always kind of fun too. So yeah, that's what I'm paying attention to, the young guys and the Jeremy Matisse friendship.
I like that. I'm also paying attention to DA coming back, and if he's able to continue to play at this level. I mean, I don't know if he can sustain 30 and 19, but just, to go out there and watch him offensively and just crash the boards, it's really beautiful things, especially that 30-19 game. But if he can continue to just even do half of that, he had a double-double at halftime, but just the way that he's coming along so quickly since his return has been fun to watch. So it's like I guess my take is I want to keep watching DA and watch the growth there and watch the chemistry build that, they haven't had a chance to build because of injuries. So I've been watching DA. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, DA, you're exactly right, Brooke. DA definitely a guy to pay attention to, and then kind of the subtext of that too is kind of the chemistry with Ant, and now that he's back and healthy, and you assume he's going to be starting with Scoot, because I think going into next season, when you're looking at things and being like, well, what's something they're doing now that they're probably going to be doing next season as well. The guard play and the interplay between your center and your point guards. That is something that I think you can count on next season, that Ant and Scoot are going to be playing with Deandre Ayton. So, I think that is definitely something to pay a lot of attention to as well. And I also think too, the play between Ant and Scoot, I feel like that's been a little rough. Both of those guys kind of cussing on the ball in their hand. Rough is probably too strong of a word, but I think they're still kind of learning how to play alongside each other because they do a lot of things kind of similarly. So that's also something that I'm quite interested in as well, is what are those guys, how are they able to play alongside each other, and are they able to kind of figure out like what are some of the benefits of having a backcourt with Ant and Scoot, and maybe what are some of the things that you need to mitigate when those guys are out there together. So, and then obviously you have Shaedon, who you would assume that if Shaedon was healthy, he would maybe be playing one of those guard spots. And then you have to decide like, well, is it going to be Ant or is it going to be Scoot? Like, are they going to do a 3-guard lineup? Are they going to try that again? Shaedon's got the size. He can probably play the 3, but then does that make you undersized at the 1 or the 2? A lot of that stuff that, again, I think they would have liked to, I think they probably have ideas about all those things. I think they would have liked to have been able to see some actual play on the court that could validate some of those opinions, or at least change the way they think about some of those opinions that they might have. To your point, Brooke, haven't really gotten to see that. So in these last couple weeks of the season, hopefully they will be able to see some of those things. That would be the best, I think, way for the season to end for the Trailblazers would be to just have maybe just a couple weeks where everyone was healthy, and not even everyone, just the young players too. Like the more veteran guys, I think you could probably make an argument at some point in time. Maybe it might make some sense to maybe get those guys some rest going into next season, make sure that, no one suffers anything going into next year, going into this off season, which I think is going to be a pretty important off season for the Trailblazers. Probably have a couple pieces of business they might need to get done. So you don't want to do anything that's going to put that in jeopardy. But you would like to see the young guys get healthy and then play alongside each other and show kind of what this team might look like next season and in seasons going forward. And so again, when you're deciding like, well, am I going to tune in tonight? Am I gonna maybe go out and see if I can catch the Blazer game? If you're someone who's really interested in what young players are in, how young players are developing and what you might see from this team going forward, I would say that if they're able to get everyone out there and generally healthy, now would be a good time to see those things, which we were hoping to see earlier in the season. Just didn't pan out that way, but it's not done yet. We might get some of that work accomplished here before the end of the season. I'm hopeful they can, Brooke. Well, that's a good place to stop on this edition of the Blazers Balcony. We'll be back next week, I guess, from the road. Yeah, I guess yeah. We'll be out there. We haven't done a same place road edition, Brooke, in some time now. So
in a minute. February, yeah. We were so lucky to be home for so long, but I
It was
look
nice.
forward to that too.
Yeah. So we, as I mentioned, quite a few games this week. Celtics Monday night, and then another back-to-back. A lot of home back-to-backs in this stretch too. Maybe that's why it feels like they're playing more games, Brooke. It's just because it feels like we've had a lot of back-to-backs lately. So Celtics Monday night, Tuesday night off, Wednesday versus the Hawks, Thursday versus the Knicks. Fly out to New Orleans on Friday to play the Pelicans on Saturday. 4 o'clock start time. That one a little bit earlier on that one. Saturday's start time, and then a Monday night game in Chicago. 5 o'clock start time for those of you back here in Portland. Before coming back, as I said, for 3 games, back-to-back, or not back-to-back, consecutive games versus the Lakers, and then the Nuggets, as I mentioned, the schedule getting much more difficult before heading out once again on the road. But we'll talk to you multiple times before we head out on that extended road trip. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, thanks to everyone who who bought a Brooke Heart Your Heart hat, or donated money, or just did whatever.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And we will talk to you all next week.
Peace out.